the need for additional.
All right, I've got 5:30. Who's got 5:30?
I'd like to call the December 8th meeting, 2021 of the Wakefield City Council to order. Take roll call. Larry?
Here.
Ross? Val?
Here.
Scott? The notice of the meeting was posted 3 places in town. This also was in the Wakefield Republican. Open meeting laws are behind me. We've also got pamphlets. If you'd like to take one, it's free. And at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item is the consent agenda. I understand there are a couple of things we want to pull out of the consent agenda, so we need a motion to do that.
Somebody needs to ask.
Yeah, I would pull the Civic Center minutes of the consent agenda, a discussion on that.
Okay. Any other items pulled out, minutes? I'd like to pull the ADA minutes out, so did we combine that, Ross? We got the ADA compliance and senior center we're going to pull out of the consent agenda?
You don't need a vote.
Okay. Then do we want to talk about those before we approve the consent agenda, or do we approve the consent agenda?
It's however you want it.
Why don't we go ahead and approve the consent agenda first?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Ross
Aye.
and Val.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
Okay. Do you want to take a moment and look at those items? I think we have them in our packets.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to pull the Civic Center minutes out. Obviously, you guys probably read it, and we have forwarded some requests or recommendations on the board. They had discussion and ultimately decided to disband the board. I was thinking maybe what we can do is get some leadership where maybe Larry and I can sit down with the Civic Center board and discuss the situation and try to remedy what's going on right now. Obviously, we don't want to see the board disband. We just need to have some open communication, I think. If there was something they really didn't like through, this whole process, what do we need to do about it? And how can we fix the situation? That's what I would like to do.
Yeah, I think there's some issues that we need to address both sides so we get a better understanding on, how we're feeling and to work through the situation.
Yeah, I agree. And if, if people choose not to be a part of the board, that's fine. But as far as disbanding, we really need a group of people to help oversee this for the council. I just think there's not quite a true understanding of how a city property should be managed, maybe, between the board and the council and the city and the funds and the local manager, the on-site manager. We have to figure out a better way to work together so it's not an issue for everybody.
Right, we're still just kind of feeling our way through this process.
Yep.
Yeah. Or if one of you two would like to meet with them as well.
No,
You have
I think
experience on the board as
you're
well.
good. Because it does need a fresh set of eyes, because I've been on the board, I know how it was when I was there, and that maybe is done, and that's fine. But I think a fresh set of eyes would be good, and Larry's on the board, and so that there is some council representation on the board, which is kind of the way it is like the CRA. Each of us is on a number of different committees, so I think it's a good idea.
So I don't know if we need an official recommendation. John, you want to add anything to that as president of the Civic Center board? Yeah. Is that something you guys would be willing to do? Sit down with us and visit about it?
I'm done with it as of tonight, and I know there's at least 2 other members that are done with it
Okay.
as of this month. So
Maybe we can reach out to some.
that's up to you guys. I'm just unwilling to give my valuable time to something that, in my opinion isn't doing any good.
Okay. So we can reach out to the board and see who we see if we can get straightened out.
I mean, at the end, they can't dissolve the board, they're resigning, and mayors, or however we appointed the board initially, we can appoint members to fill those terms,
Okay.
and negotiate or sit down with that new board.
Okay. Do we need any action for anything like that, or can we just go ahead and do it?
Well, I'm not sure, when he says there's two other, who's left on the board? Did they all resign?
We can
No, there's 3 people coming off this month anyway. Their term is up, and so 2 of those decided not to continue, and one of them wasn't present, so I don't know on that third one.
So when I'm not sure how we appointed that board in the first place.
The mayor appoints the board. We tried to have, we had recommendations like Val, and she thought John would be good on the board. So we had recommendations from people.
So maybe next meeting, I mean, you probably aren't prepared to appoint anybody tonight, but next meeting, maybe you could appoint have some members. Appoint.
And in order to move forward, those, like John, if you want to resign, but I think we need something written, turned into the office or the city office of the mayor, just so they know where they're at.
Well, it was in their minutes.
Their terms are up.
It's in the minutes, so that's fine.
Okay.
I don't know if their terms are up, it's, like Scotty said, it's on the, it was only however long anyway.
We'll just reach out to everybody and take into account and see who's, we'll insert.
I can interject. Larry and I were both in the city council when this project began to build this building. As Councilman Larry, did you get any pre-advance information on the fact that we were going to approve this building at the council meeting?
Just had a meeting to.
Just at the meeting?
Yep.
And Mike Loof, who's on your committee and now is finished, his term is up. He was the mayor, and we questioned a lot of things. How much it's going to cost to maintain the building was one of the questions that I asked. They brought a preliminary drawing that was like a sheet of paper like this, and it didn't even have the dimensions on it. And the architect was there; he didn't know the dimensions of the building. So we were pretty hasty in approving and I don't usually go along with doing it I think that's a mistake you make when you hurry through things, but we also at that meeting had a promise of money to maintain the building, which evidently was, of course it wasn't binding, but we didn't fulfill the promise. But you guys all probably understand how much it takes to maintain a building that's larger than your home. A lot of money. The air handler in here didn't work, we had to replace it. And it wasn't even a year old, and to me, I would have fought that tooth and nail, saying that that is under warranty. The company said the warranty started when the air handler was in their warehouse. I've never heard of such a thing. We've put lots of money into this building. Lots of money into the building. The quote that the mayor made at that time was, "Fellas, this is a no-brainer. It's not going to cost you a nickel." Because of change orders and change order and change orders. The last one was, it was several $1,000s, like $17,000 to take the original garage floor out and put a new one in. I think it was $17,000, Now you're telling me a guy with an engineering degree or a guy with an architectural degree can't walk into an existing building and tell that the floor slopes? The city has about $500,000 into this building before we even got it open. That's a lot of nickels. So, I'm not thinking we need to spend money immediately on this building. And I ran on the idea that I wanted to get a dollar value for a dollar spent. We go through the invoices. Pam will tell you, I make phone calls. We try to save money. We do save some money. But unfortunately, when you're on a committee, it's a lot easier to hire somebody to do it and to have the city pay for it than it is to go out and figure out a way to do it in some other way. The senior center, they pay rent of $950 or something like that. But they also go out and raise money to try to take care of that facility. And I have talked to the people in the senior center board, and they've been told that don't go above whoever. I welcome any of you, you got a problem in Wakefield, you come to me because that's my job. When the cows are out, I don't mind walking down there at 8 o'clock in the morning and slopping through the manure and trying to figure out what the problem is. But I've got committees here. I've got the library committee. You know how many times the library committee has contacted me with any issues? Jim, how often do they contact you with big issues?
Not much.
But you do not call the city office and put our staff under the gun because they're not doing a good job. That's not the purpose of the committee. Your job is to try to do the best you can to make this work within your budget. And Jim will, I think, verify this. Since I've been on the council, we have had budgets where we've asked the employees to take a 1% raise. We have taken stuff off our insurance for a year because we couldn't afford the insurance. So I think that we've got to be careful. We're the ones that are supposed to figure out where we spend the money. And I like this facility. We have done a lot. We just had an improvement today. Cement was poured. But there's not unlimited funds, folks. The park, the backstop broke. The leaves get raked. We don't pay a dime. Mark Lindahl came in with his son and bagged about 200 bags of leaves. Mark Lindahl and Travis Berkeley got together and borrowed the CBA lift to take our backstop netting down, otherwise it probably would all fall down in the snow on Friday. But you ever heard that 1,000 points of light? We're supposed to be 1,000 points of light and show people how you make a community work. And it's not by complaining and trying to get somebody to do the work for you and trying to hire somebody and keep raising their wages. I worked at the park for 25 years for $0 and I've loved every minute of it. But that's one service that I can do for the community. Every one of you is in service to the community. Whether it be the American Legion, whether it be 4-H, whether you're serving on a local committee. But that's our obligation. And when you take on to be on a committee, that is kind of the expectation. It's going to be a lot of work to do. But I appreciate the committee. I think we need to meet with them and see what kind of a committee we can have. President Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And I think in the present day, present times, we're a lot more on the other side where we want to see what can the city do for you, what can the school do for you. If you want to have a strong community, and you're here tonight, so it's evidence that you do want to have a good community, then sometimes we have to just work our fannies off, and we got to figure out solutions to problems that don't require us to call Oldfields from Omaha or to call Tennant to get new brooms for the street sweeper. Sometimes there's a way that would be more economical, or there would be a way of prevention. I could go on all night, but do not ever say that people can't come talk to me. I want every one of the citizens to come talk to me. I've got a year left. If you've got an issue that I can help you with, and I'm not going to promise you that I can get any results. I may disagree with what you're trying to do. The hardest night I had sleeping after being the mayor of Wakefield was when we had the dog issue. And we had to take a dog that was so beloved by the owner and tell her that that dog needed to be in a containment. We're not gonna talk about ADA, but we had an ADA compliance committee meeting, and people in wheelchairs in Wakefield can't get into the post office. And I didn't know that until they told me that. I go to the post office, sometimes I expect a really nice letter. And I'm pretty excited about it. I imagine they are too. But yeah, we'll figure out a way to get a committee. We appreciate the service of people that have served. But we're not people that can just tell every committee, just do everything you want to do. I know it's never been that way at Graves Park. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda.
Want to even talk about the ADA?
I think, well, no. The ADA staff was at the meeting. Here's what they said. They really appreciate the sidewalk because now they can get into this building. They're thanking you as council members for getting that sidewalk, and the Civic Center, and whoever else, Jim, who was involved in it. They're thanking us because we put a sidewalk, Jim, you were involved in it, from Lefty Olson Drive to the entrance to the trail. And that allows a wheelchair to access the trail. Before they had to go over the rock, they might upset themselves, whatever. But I thought, gee whiz, I'm learning about stuff, and they're thanking us for doing something like that. And it's thankless being on a committee, I understand that. But I appreciate your efforts. All right. The second thing on the agenda is open a public hearing for annexation. This has been a long process, but it's here finally. And we're actually trying to annex, I believe it's 5 parcels, Jim, inside the levee on the north end of town.
6 parcels, sir.
6 parcels. So if anybody wants a map, there's a map. I've got a map. Do you have a map? So it's right in front of us.
Yeah.
But it's up on here.
Oh, it's up on the screen. Okay. So anyone that would like to speak in favor of this? We'll open that up in just a second. I do understand that we do have drainage issues there. I know there's a home right along the Logan that fears every time that we got heavy rains and the Logan rises. And Dan, you might want to address those concerns too. But we have agreed as a city to work with those properties and try to figure out a solution to give them some other flood protection. And we hired our engineer. I think it was $1,500. That's beyond the point, but we know that when there's a flood imminent, we need big pumps to get that water back where it's supposed to go and get it away from Dan and Kelly's home, and to get it away from our largest employer in town, Mikey's Foods. And we've talked to both Brady and Dan and Kelly, and right now the solution is try to have pumps on hand during flood season. Is that about what we've done, Brady? And is that going to work, do you think? And Dan?
Well, I'll tell you what, what was it, 2 years ago in March? That's the highest I've ever seen that. Yeah, that was just amazing. It looked like Lake Michigan to the north.
And we think the long-term solution is to put a bigger culvert under the highway, right? Was that?
I've got no clue. I'm not a hydrologist or whatever.
I think
All
Michael's
I do
Foods,
know is water goes downhill, it doesn't flow uphill.
you learned that. But we want to keep working with you on those things. So anyway, with that being said, it's time for people that are in favor of the annexation, just to, if you want to say something, this is your opportunity. Any speakers? Any speakers opposed? Any neutral speakers? So it's kind of a non-argumentative case of annexation.
It's really a cleanup type thing, of taking in areas that should have been annexed a long time ago. As you can see, they're kind of a hodgepodge there. So it really is kind of a cleanup thing of bringing everything inside the city limits.
So it's that the city owns and that Larry Shear owns and that Michael's Foods owns and that Dan and Kelly own,
Part of the city.
and part of the parks and some of that. Okay. So should we close the public hearing? I think we can safely close the public hearing. And then we would ask to approve ordinance 11, 2021 for annexation.
It's first read, you have to have 3 readings, and you can't waive the 3.
Oh, we can?
Not for an annexation.
Okay, you got
So
the,
somebody just needs to introduce the bill and then do the.
we need a councilman to introduce number 11, 2021.
I'll introduce ordinance 11, 2021 for the annexation for the first reading.
An ordinance of the city of Wakefield, Nebraska, to annex into the city limits certain miscellaneous tracts of land located in Dixon County, Nebraska, which are contiguous to the city limits, consisting of 31.83 acres, more or less. And then it's got the legal descriptions. I need to read that?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is the public hearing for the Pickberry Construction Tax Increment Financing Application. And I got that, that's a lot of material to read, but I tried to make it out. How much is is it $2 million, how much is the TIF the amount that we're applying for? Oh, you know that.
I know that.
Good, I'm glad you're gonna step up.
Hi, I'm Allison Bohr. I'm a TIF attorney from Klein Williams. We represent the city of Wakefield on redevelopment matters. Today we're here to discuss the amendment to the redevelopment plan for the Pick and Perry project. What that amendment's gonna do is add this project to the general redevelopment plan for the city so that the project can utilize tax increment financing. The Planning Commission met prior to this meeting, and so did the CRA, and both recommended approval of the amendment by the City Council. The project itself, you're probably familiar with it, but it's the construction of an apartment complex consisting of 3 apartment buildings. Each will be 3 stories and contain 30 units, so 90 units total. The preliminary site plan for the project is attached as Exhibit B, so if you want to take a look at that, that will give you an idea of what it'll look like. Construction is anticipated to start in the spring of 2022 and be completed in May of 2023. The redeveloper is estimating that its total investment in the project will be around $14 million. So the project site, it's located in the redevelopment area, which means that we can utilize, it's eligible for the use of TIF. It's 2 lots located in the industrial park addition right there, currently vacant, but currently also zoned C2 general commercial, so this multifamily use is a permitted use in the area. In terms of TIF sources or how much TIF funds we're talking about, approval of this project will allow the CRA to capture the tax increment generated by this project for a period of 15 years, and that will be used to assist with the costs of eligible public improvements. So in this case, our TIF projections support a TIF note in the amount of about $2.3 million. So that calculation, happy to walk through it, but just as a refresher, that tax increment is really the difference between the property taxes on the project site before and after the project. Right now, the base value of the project site is only about $65,000 because it's just vacant lots. And the anticipated final valuation of the project site is $12.7 million. So that incremental value is just under $12.7 million. And the tax on that incremental value is the TIF. So in the TIF projections, we've assumed that there's going to be a 50% partial valuation in year 1, just based on the redeveloper's construction schedule spanning over the course of a couple of years there. So the projected annual tax increment in year 1 is around $118,000, and the projected annual tax increment in years 2 through 15 is approximately $230,000. So when we calculate that at a present value using a 5% interest rate, we get the $2.3 million number. So those TIF funds that we're talking about, they must be used for public improvements that are listed as eligible expenditures under the community development law. The redeveloper has identified a list of eligible improvements, and that list exceeds 2.3 million. The top three that are on the list, there are site preparation, site utilities, the construction and extension of utilities to the project site, and various street improvements to East 9th Street. We also reviewed the project in accordance with a number of other factors. We reviewed the city's comprehensive plan, the city's housing study. Both identified need for additional housing in the community, so this project fits that. We also looked at this project in accordance with some statutory elements that were required to look at under community development law. A couple that I want to note for you is population density. Obviously, this project is contemplating 90 units, so there will be an increase in the population density in the redevelopment area, but we think that growth is consistent with the comprehensive plan for the community. In terms of traffic, this project is obviously going to increase traffic to the project site and the redevelopment area, but the redeveloper will be making various street improvements, specifically to East 9th Street. I know there was some conversation at the CRA meeting about to what extent the redeveloper would be required to pave that street, how far down the road. I don't know if you guys have had separate conversations about that, but I think that that's something that the city, I just wanted to point out that that's not in this agreement, so we haven't specifically identified, how much he's required to pave, so that's something you would have to have some separate development agreement with them about. Lastly, the cost benefit analysis for the project is attached as Exhibit C. That's required whenever you use TIF to look at the costs and the benefits of the project. Overall, the benefits of the project can be summarized as that this project will result in additional public infrastructure, it'll fit housing options in the city, and it's going to facilitate the development of a blighted and substandard area in the city. So we believe that the benefits outweigh the cost of the project, and we didn't see any issues with the project from a TIF perspective. So with that, I can answer any other questions that you have.
I don't know. So, does the council have questions? Russ? That makes it more understandable.
Okay, good.
But I'm not gonna admit that I understand it 100% because that would be a lie. But we appreciate you being here.
Definitely.
Could you help us answer questions if there are questions from you?
Absolutely.
All right,
I'll just
thank
take
you.
a seat.
Okay, people that would like to ask questions or is in a position where I think most of us are in favor of going forward with this project. But if you are and you've got questions or if you've got statements you'd like to make, you're welcome to do it now. Mike,
Yeah.
can you go up here, Mike, so we can hear better? We have a hard time hearing. I guess we're getting older. I'm getting older.
Get hearing aids in. Anyway,
Thanks.
one question that came up was, he plans on building all three of these at the same time, right? Or is he gonna build one and then turn around, if that fails, he's gonna build another one?
I thought he was gonna build one at a time, I thought.
So then how that affects his tax is,
Is this just talking about the initial 30 unit?
This is actually contemplating all three
Oh.
units.
Oh.
All three, so yes, the entire scope of the project is the 12.7 million. It's all three buildings,
So how many apartments is that?
90 total.
Oh, I didn't understand that.
I don't know, maybe I could shed some light here. I'm Roy Perry. I'm the general contractor / developer.
oh,
We talked about maybe making an amendment to this to build 130plex at a time to make sure that we're not flooding, the market area. So what we'll do with the TIF is we'll split it up into threes based off of 3 phases,
oh, okay.
130plex at a time.
That's one thing we didn't cover yesterday, so I was wondering about that.
I think, Allison, your projection here is the total amount of the TIF for the whole project. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct, but just to be clear, well, we had not actually discussed the amendment quite yet, but these projections are all based on the project having one single effective date, one single 15-year period for the division of taxes, and for this to have one taxing parcel. So if you start dividing taxes in 2023, that 15-year clock starts, and so you're not gonna be able to capture a full 15-year tax increment from just each building. It's whatever's on the project site, whatever's on the parcel. So the only way to really do what he's talking about and structure this as a truly a phased project with each building having its own 15-year clock is to potentially set up some type of condominium regime and set up some type of regime where each building has its own tax ID. But unless they do that, as soon as they build and as soon as we start dividing taxes, that's gonna be on the entire project site. And so, and it will drastically impact the projections if all of them aren't built by our projected completion date.
What is the completion date?
The completion date listed in the redevelopment agreement is, I think May of 2023.
I thought you said 2023.
Yes.
Do you feel that that's what's gonna happen?
Well, what we don't want to do is we don't want to build all 90 doors and 60 doors seats, sit there vacant. It's an eyesore. I'm assuming the community would want that as well. So we want to build them as they're being filled. If we're starting construction early spring and we have a long waiting list to get in there, then we'll have a better understanding and we'll keep building. But to come in here and build all 90, I think it's too aggressive.
I had the same question that Mike had, and I had a conversation with Megan yesterday, that, it's, the whole wad is not going out at once. It's basically incremental based on project completion. Makes sense, obviously. My question is to that, so if you're building, just looking at the plans, you've got this parking lot that's basically set up for 3 buildings. You're gonna do the whole parking lot and then just have one building there?
No, I mean phases.
Okay.
I can actually send out some information to you, color coded, on what will be built per phase. It's 2 parking stalls per unit, so there'll have to be a mix between 60 garages and parking spaces for phase 1. So the red building is phase 1. So obviously all the parking lot in front of it will be built into the side of it, and the first set of 11 garages. The blue, phase 2, the middle set of garages. Phase 3 with the green building, the last phase for the set of garages.
Is this process that Mr. Perry's talking about allowable with this TIF? If he chooses to do one and wait and then the other and wait, how do we work that out?
Right, so I mean, it's just going to impact the amount of the TIF that comes in. There's just going to be less than what was anticipated. The way that I'm looking at these two, if you can look at that, you can see that there's 2 lots. So the blue building is on one lot, sort of, and the other 2 are on the top lot. So technically, we have 2 different taxing parcels right now. What I had spoken with Teresa Minor about, what we had discussed, is it would make sense in this case to replat the project site to have 1 taxable lot, since this whole project will be on the whole lot. We don't want to have a building have a partial valuation on one lot and a partial valuation on the other lot. So if like building 3 is built, that building straddles the line. So it just wouldn't make sense for it to not just be replatted into 1 lot. If we replat it into 1 lot, then again, the entire lot will have 1 15-year clock for the division of taxes. So if he builds 1 building, and let's just say that creates $4 million of value. So the tax increment on the $4 million of value will come in. If 2 years later he builds another building, the entire value of the project site might go up to $8 million. And then for the 3rd, maybe it goes up to 12. So
the clock started when
the
the
clock
first
already
project.
started when the first project, when we first divided taxes in 2023. So yes, the valuation of the project site will increase and the tax increment will increase as things are built, but there's still only 1 15-year clock, so we're not really maximizing the tax increment he's going to get, and there's certainly not going to be 2.3 if we don't start, if the project isn't completed when we thought it was going to be completed.
If it doesn't just keep going.
Right, because our projections are based on a $12.7 million value being created by 2024. If that's not gonna happen,
2025.
right, if that doesn't happen, then our projections are gonna be off, which means less tax increment coming in. less tax increment for the redeveloper. Because again, this is not a general obligation of the CRA or the city. All we're saying is we'll pass through the TIF, whatever there is.
Right.
If there's less, then he gets less.
And that's-
So-
and you're-
Yeah,
That's clear, you're good with that?
we're good with that.
Okay.
Yep.
So you want us to okay this the way it is now tonight?
Please.
Terry, you had a question.
No, I was gonna try to clarify, because we wrestled through this in P and Z last Wednesday night, that very question.
Right.
And so that's what I was gonna say, it's all on the same 15-year block, so depending how far it spreads out, or, it won't be the full amount that's really estimated, and that's all I was.
I think what we could do is, and we can do this, we can still approve the project tonight and go back and do this, but what we can do is run some different projections with potentially a more realistic scale of, by 2024, it'll be $4 million. By 2026, it'll be an $8 million value, and then we expect all 3 buildings to be completed by whatever it is, 2028. And then so we can see how that 15-year
How the
of
projections-
tax increment will actually play out, and we can reduce the amount of the TIF note appropriately. If we don't want to do that, if we want to go based on the $12.7 million projection, what I would propose is that we amend the TIF note, the form of the TIF note that is attached to the redevelopment agreement, to essentially provide for essentially like a draw schedule. So the only cost he's able to get, the only amount of the note that's approved is the amount of the costs that are certified to the CRA. So he has to come and say, look, I've spent $1 million on eligible items, and then we'll say, okay, then the principal amount of the note is now $1 million. So we can structure the note that way. The other thing I'd point out is that there is a provision in the redevelopment agreement that says if for some reason those expenses, what it says is that in no case will the amount of the TIF funds that we give you exceed your eligible expenses. So either way, like, he's only gonna get what tax increment there is. So it's not really a risk or a concern from the city's perspective. All the risk is really on the redeveloper.
That's correct.
Okay.
Terry, anything else?
No,
Did you-
no,
Anyone else would like to speak in favor of the tax increment financing for the Pickbury project? Is there anyone opposed to the project or opposed to us approving the TIF? Anyone that would like to speak in a neutral position? Any councilmen have any comments? Okay. Then we can close the public hearing? Need a motion to close?
So,
Second.
Scott? Larry?
Aye.
Ross? And Val?
Somebody needs to introduce resolution 24, 2021, and move for passage.
Go ahead. Introduce resolution 24, 2021, and pass.
Second.
You want me to read it? Or do I have to?
You have it.
Oh, I do. Is this it? Yeah. I'm not gonna read all this.
You just need to read
The black,
the,
the
the
bold.
bold.
Resolution 24, 2021, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Wakefield, Nebraska, approving an amendment of the redevelopment plan for the City of Wakefield, Nebraska, including the Pitt and Perry redevelopment project. And that's enough? Okay. You want this? We need to vote. Larry?
Aye.
Ross? Val?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approve Resolution 25, 2021, redevelopment agreement for the Pickbury redevelopment project?
Can I make a couple comments about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is really the binding contract between the CRA and the redeveloper that's gonna implement the plan that we just talked about. I just wanted to point out a couple of keys. Article 3 is the key from a TIF perspective. That just reiterates that the CRA will capture the tax increment for 15 years. Starting in 2023, the CRA is going to issue a TIF note in the amount of $2.3 million, and that the TIF note's not a general obligation of the CRA or the city. They're just agreeing to pass through whatever tax increment there is, and the CRA is going to use that TIF to pay off the TIF note. Prior to the issuance of the TIF note, the redeveloper will be required to pay the city's cost of issuance, so their attorney's fees and a $5,000 administrative fee. So that's all laid out in there. Article 4 outlines the redeveloper's obligations. They're going to construct the project. They have to submit a cost certification to the CRA to evidence that they've incurred TIF-eligible expenses. They are agreeing to pay their taxes, to not protest the valuation of their property below $12.7 million, and to not sell their property to a tax-exempt entity for 15 years. And then section 4.005B addresses this issue of what happens if there's a shortfall. Basically, if the anticipated tax increment is lower than we thought it would be. If a shortfall occurs, then the redeveloper will be responsible for making what we call deficiency payments to its lender. So they're gonna have this TIF note, they're gonna go to a lender and monetize it up front. And so all the obligations are gonna be really between the redeveloper and their lender. If there's not enough increment to make payments on that loan that they take out, then they're responsible for whatever that shortfall is. And all of that happens privately between them. And then again, the form of the TIF note that we've proposed is attached as Exhibit E. Again, that's just a blanket note for the $2.3 million. As I recommended, we could amend that if you're so inclined. We don't have to, but that's just a suggestion. If the council wants to see the note amended to essentially set a maximum amount for the TIF note at 2.3, and then attach some type of draw schedule where the redeveloper gets whatever amounts equal to what he's certified over time, then we could do something like that as well. But it's really up to you, just whatever you guys want to see.
Is that your advisory, is to do it that way?
Yeah, that is my recommendation, especially in a case like this where we're talking about, you know, site preparation and grading. If he's only going to do it for one lot, that's, you know, only going to be a third of his cost for what he said site preparation and grading was. Utility, construction, and extension, they're probably only going to do it for one building at a time, stuff like that. So I would say let's restructure the note to provide for this draw schedule. And I think what we can do tonight is just approve the redevelopment agreement without Exhibit E. We can just say approved without Exhibit E, and we'll work on it and then get it back to the CRA for their final approval.
Without which E?
Without Exhibit E. Yep.
No, you're right. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
Needs to introduce.
Okay, we've got a resolution 25-2021 we need to introduce and then move to pass. And a resolution of the City Council of the City of Wakefield, Nebraska, approving the form of the redevelopment agreement and authorizing the Community Redevelopment Authority to enter into said agreement. And that would be without Exhibit E, is that correct?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now we vote. Scott? Aye. Larry?
Aye.
Ross? Val?
Aye.
I'm glad these people that know this stuff are here. Allison, we're depending on you. Teresa? No. All right, thank you. That's it for that. Tracy's here. Wakefield Healthcare Center quarterly report. And Tracy, we had a meeting at the Little Red Inn Theater for our ADA compliance committee. And Gary's chair is in the shop, not working, correct? And Tracy brought Gary to the meeting. That's, appreciate that a lot, Tracy. Go ahead.
Alrighty, here's just a look back on our census for the last 4 months. I included August, I don't remember if I included that in September or not, but overall, our census is steady. We really don't want our census to get any higher than it is just due to staffing. So we're okay keeping it where we're at. If you compare like the census to the financials, you know, those Medicare A days, they pay well, and that's what's helping keeping us in the positive. I'm not gonna read all that to you. As of today, our nursing home census is 27, the assisted living is getting full at 15. Ash Street's full, there will be a vacancy by the end of the month, but that seems to be flowing well, and the villa's full right now, so we are doing well. Financially, we continue to sit well. We did talk as a board, we had to raise like our wages for our CNAs and stuff like that. Long-term care is definitely at a deficit right now for caregivers. You know, being a CNA is kind of like a thankless job a lot of days. So we have great staff, as I've always mentioned, with longevity, and we want to keep them. We don't want them going other places. So the board did approve some raises, like within reason. Nothing was like excessive. We did see like the biggest hike like in our nursing caregivers. Staff was super appreciative of that. So with increasing those staff wages so we can be competitive with other facilities, you know, I'm new at this job, like, so just looking financially, we are financially stable, but we also need to replace our roof. So there's some bigger leaks on that east hall that are, you know, borderline infection control concern. So we met with the Quality Roofing, I think their name is, out of Norfolk. They have always done our roofing project. I'm probably butchering their name. But we did vote to replace the whole entire roof, like the flat roof of the building. We signed the contract in September, and then that holds the cost because, you know, with COVID and everything, like cost of supplies are increasing like 4 to 5% every month. So we locked in the cost at $325,000. So we have started a capital campaign of, you know, most of it, like this roof for sure is in need. And then there's some dietary equipment that will probably become like a need in the near future. And then there's a couple of wants. So like our top limit of our raising money was probably $400,000, just so we can make sure that we are keeping ourselves in a good financial position as things change. But as of right now, with 3 weeks into it, we've raised $12,000 from local supporters, which I think is pretty darn awesome. We also got some like government HHS cares of $58,000 this last month. And right now I'm really just, we've spent a lot of money already on that, on like improving our facilities. So I'm kind of just praying to God we don't have a big outbreak that we have to spend like a lot extra money on like staffing, that we can kind of just keep that extra stimulus money for like this roof project. So otherwise financially, I think things are, we're sitting in a good spot with good processes in place. Staffing wise, you know, I touched on that. We probably always see that. We have a need for dietary aid and certified nursing assistants, with some staffing changes with nurses. So December, we're short 2 nurses. And so Kayla and I are working on the floor, so if I'm crabby, that's why. But ultimately, we're gonna get a lot of teamwork done to get us through December. And in January, we have a PRN nurse going full-time, and then we have a part-time nurse coming from an area healthcare facility. So life will be better in January. But we have started using agency staff, not a lot, but they're good. No concerns there. Handicap access, you talked about that a little bit earlier. So the PMC therapy, we're working on improving that. We have added cement to kind of, you know, Band-Aid like the cracks and stuff, and then we will have Thrasher, they'll come and seal it. If we replace that whole entire entrance, it'd be $10,000. So, but they thought like putting the cement like we have it now and sealing it would have some longevity for us there. We're also putting in handicap doors, so that would be an ease of entering and exiting for those therapy people that come. We're having our facility Christmas party, which we haven't had for quite some time. So I think that's kind of exciting for people. But just the first part will have just families where you're able to open presents, then we're gonna kick the family out, and we're gonna party to music. So that's the fun stuff. COVID wise, we're doing fine. We haven't had any outbreaks. Resident wise, we have had some staff show up positive, but I think we have our processes in place that are keeping our residents safe. The biggest change, well, there was the whole like COVID vaccine mandate that didn't go through, so we maybe would have lost like 1 or 2 staff out of the 13 that weren't vaccinated. But ultimately, all of our unvaccinated staff, they are on board with doing whatever we ask them to help keep our residents safe. So that's awesome. But visitation, that's been very, very tight with COVID. Like you only have certain hours and all that stuff. That is all gone. But basically, everybody has to wear a mask for the full duration of their visit, and you have to complete a health screen prior. Like both things are not optional. So I don't know. What questions do you have for me? Have I babbled long enough?
No, we appreciate the report. Any questions?
Is it in a roughly a couple days?
What? Yes, it can, because there's like some significant leaks that are on like the nursing home side. So yes, I have probably that 58,000 if I don't have to touch it, and then I think it's 32 or 34,000 from the previous year that is still able to be spent. So fingers crossed.
Thank you, Tracy. The next is the Arbor Day proclamation. I don't know, do I have an Arbor Day proclamation someplace? Oh, yes, I do.
You just need to set a date, is what I was told.
Okay, well, we'll do it in, let's see, what's next week on like Wednesday? Is that, would be this 15th?
Normally,
7 days, it'd be the 15th.
yeah, normally you do these for April. You make
Yeah.
a proclamation and
Well, this is the 150th anniversary of Arbor Day, and so because of COVID and the fact that it's the 150th anniversary of Arbor Day, we have the whole year in order to meet our requirements for Tree City USA. But one of the requirements is to have a short program. So we're going to try to have that at the school on the 15th, and instead of having the entire elementary, Mr. Wolf thought if we just had one class, and it's normally been the 4th or 5th grade, I think. I don't know if Brian Johnson has 5th grade or 4th grade. Do you know, Russ? But we're going to try to talk to Brian and just kind of go over some of the things that we've done. I'll try to get Nikki to go with me because she's on the tree board and has written a lot of grants to get funds for terrace trees and those types of things in Wakefield, and has planted a lot of trees, been responsible for that. And we just could explain that to a few 5th grade students and let them do whatever the teacher decides that they should do to honor Arbor Day.
this year you had, your proclamation was for April 29th, 2021.
Right, but the proclamation was?
Yeah, it's right here.
All right, so do you want me to read this whole thing? Arbor, G-U-D, no. In 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed to plant more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, and produce oxygen and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, countless other wood products, and trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas Nebraska is the worldwide home of Arbor Day, now therefore I, Paul Eaton, Mayor of the City of Wakefield, do hereby certify and proclaim that I'm going to do it December 15th as Arbor Day in the City of Wakefield, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day, support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this 8th day of December 2021. Thank you. There you go.
I don't know if your agenda is the same, in the same order as ours, Paul.
Maybe not.
So,
I've got civic center issue, doors from
Yep.
senior center to bathrooms.
yep.
And we're honored to have Phyllis Ullman tonight to speak to us. Thank you, Phyllis. And Phyllis is on both the Civic Center Board and also on the Senior Center Board, is that, nope, not
I'm
anymore.
not on the senior center board, I'm just the civic center board. I was on the
Okay.
civic center board, my term is over.
Okay, thank you for being here, Phyllis.
I am not a public speaker, and there's a lot of faces I don't know, and probably a lot of people that don't know me. But, the reason I'm here tonight is to propose to the city that they put a door from the bathrooms to the senior center. I don't know how many of you are aware of it, but we have to go clear around and come up this hallway and clear down that hallway to get to the bathroom. There was someone that fell a couple weeks ago, and she was no way of letting anybody know. She happened to fall, somebody happened to miss her. So they went and looked her up and they found that she had fallen. They called the rescue unit. They just come and helped her up. She did not get hurt, thank goodness, but that's the first time. And there's nothing in the bathrooms to, put a light on or anything. And she hollered, but there was no way that they could hear her. And so I just wanted to bring this up because when this building was being planned, the blueprints that they had set up for this building was presented to the seniors at the old senior center. And we were asked if we had any questions. I had the question of why can't we have a door from the bathrooms to the senior center, because that's too long to go. The older you get, the harder it is to make it there. And I was told that it costs too much to change the blueprints, so that why not wait till the building is done, and then we can hire our own contractor and it will cost less. So that's where it stopped. It never went any further than that. Well, after she fell, it kind of brought it up to me again. I've been trying for some time to get a door. And I've got a lot of different ideas. The one that I have now is, the latest one is to put a door in the men's restroom. There's the baby changer on that south wall. That wall is on the other side of it's a senior center. I don't know how to explain it other than that. So that baby changer could be put on the wall on the other side of the mirror and a door put in there to the men's restroom. In the women's restroom, there's two handicap stalls. The one right straight in from the door and the one clear down to the end. The one right in from the door could be taken out and a door put in there. And those two doors would be all that would be necessary to build or to do. And I had been bringing it up to the civic board, and then finally it dawned on me, this is not a civic board duty, because this building belongs to the city. So this is something the city should be thinking about. Yeah, I was told that there had to be so many stalls in each room according to the capacity of the civic center. And the men's restroom has 8, the women's restroom has 9. I do not know what the capacity, what is required. I did have a contractor come in and look at it, and he read the blueprints, and he told me that it would be possible to put a door, but it was not, this proposal was not in front of him. I did not put this proposal in front of him. It was just making a door was possible. I was told that maybe we needed to make a room in the center for a unisex bathroom with just one stall and a sink. But we don't have room in there for that. The office, the little room, the pantry where the office is at, if we took out a space out of there, we would have very little storage space. And it would crowd the manager's desk to have it in there. There was one suggestion made to take it right out of the bathroom where our sink and refrigerator is in the main room. But there again, that would be too big a room, space to be taken out of there. So I am proposing that we have, I'm putting it in front of you, that I think it would be nice if we could have a bathroom there. I wanted to comment that we pay this $900 a month rent. We have had problems with the heat. We've had problems with the odor in the kitchen and the bathroom. We have had troubles with the locks on the doors in the senior center. And there are other little picky things, but those are the main things. Now, just how many of you would go into a home and rent that home and have those kind of problems? How long would you put up with that? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Phyllis. Appreciate you being here. This would be a good agenda item to try to figure out if we could find a solution. Probably what I think would have to happen, would have to add on a restroom somehow, but it would be expensive, but it would be something that, it's not more expensive than other things that we're doing, I guess. So we need to take a look at that and see if Phyllis has really been working on this for a long time. And we appreciate that, Phyllis. I like the fact you don't give up.
Well, I'm off of the boards now, so I don't have to push it anymore.
That's enviable, Phyllis, that you're working on this, really is. Thank you for that report. Any comments by the council?
It's something we can definitely look at. I mean, that does not hurt anything, just.
We can look at it.
What it would take.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. All right. Do you want to make a motion to try to get a consultant in here and take a look at it?
Do you need a motion for it?
If we had a motion, then we could, if we had to hire an engineer, we could get a drawing. And we could figure out, we'd pay for the engineering costs.
Or at least some kind of a, contract of some kind.
And it'd be a restroom addition, probably is what,
Or see if it is.
if it has to be, but.
See, I mean, I think the doors would be probably the cheaper option, if it's possible.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned that we have to have a certain number of restroom facilities based upon the size of the room, but I don't know that.
Yes, we do. What is in there is required.
So if we lost the stall in each bathroom, would we be?
You would not be in
requirement?
compliance with.
Okay.
I think that's probably the problem.
And some of the discussion previously, yeah.
I think Jim had mentioned he wants it would be more feasible to build a bathroom, but it's gonna be expensive, we know that from the park. Yeah. But I think we need to take a look at it, get the cost, and if that's all right. Can we get a motion to that effect? You're shaking your head yes, Scott, but you're looking for a movie.
Well, I mean, we can always look at it, I'll make the motion to take a look at it and see what the cost would be.
I'll second it.
Larry? Ross?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Scott? Larry?
Aye.
All right. There. Public hearing date for update on comprehensive plan.
Until January.
Setting that for next council meeting.
What date is that, Jim?
I'll get my calendar open here.
What date?
12th.
12th of January?
Okay, 12th of January, set public hearing for a short-term rental, it's the same thing? January 12th?
Yes.
5:30.
5:30. Can we have a motion to approve the public hearing on the comprehensive plan update and the short-term rental plan?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Val? Scott? Larry? Okay, the next 4 items are kind of overlapping type of things. I'm skipping 13, we did that one, I thought we did both of them at once.
That was the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I had,
Yeah.
Those items were attached in your Spark, the short-term rental. So I guess take a look at that. If you need a printed out copy, you can let us know.
Well, we're gonna do both of them on January 12th, and they won't be at the same time, but they'll be the same that day.
The comp plan is just an updated cleanup that we had to do for all this redevelopment stuff. The short-term vacation rentals, to allow that in your community, you have to have guidelines that go along with that, and then your zoning needs to be amended. So that's why.
And the comp plan would be good that the council members look at that real closely and
Yeah, we can work on that.
have some input as soon as you could, if you have a chance to see what, so you have input on it. If you would, please. And the next 4 things are all related, because Chad has so far agreed to be our city manager and effective when he is able to be here full-time, which Chad will be in May, May, right?
Yeah.
And until that time, the council has kind of talked about Nikki being the interim, in the interim position of making the decisions that Jim is making now. And she agreed to do so. And I think we would compensate, I know we would compensate for that, but we haven't talked to Nikki about it yet, as far as what that would be. We have talked to Jim about extending his contract for 200 hours. And do we have a contract for Jim yet?
We have a draft proposal.
So we're almost ready for that one. Can we do these, maybe have a special meeting, just do all this at once for these items? Because then the 4th item is, or the last item is financial package for Chad and to get a contract that he can sign. The problem we have is getting it all put together in time for this meeting. And I think since they're all related, we can have a special meeting as soon as we get this stuff done and let Chad see a copy and let us see a copy and reach an agreement. And we've already got Jim pretty well finished. All right. And the one thing that I can appoint would be Jim has agreed to be our street superintendent. He's got a Class A license for 2022, is that right?
Correct.
So we can approve Jim as our city street engineer, or street superintendent, not engineer. And the other 3 items we will do at a special meeting, is that okay?
Would you like to set a date for that special meeting right now?
Yeah, a week from today if we can. It won't take very long, I don't think. It's just a matter of getting the documents approved and signed.
So the 15th?
Could we start at 5? I have commitments later that night.
Yeah, if you can start, we can start whenever you want us. Larry, what time you can?
That's fine.
5 o'clock?
Pushing it.
Ross?
Sorry.
Does Tuesday work for anybody else?
Yeah.
Tuesday? Or is that Wednesday?
Yeah, a week from the day.
You won't believe this, but I got referee basketball, but you could go with, you can do this without me if you want to.
I was ruining my plans. On Wednesday's fine. I'm like,
What do you want to go, you want to wait late until after Christmas?
No, no. We need to get this, yeah.
We're skipping our retreat until later, so it won't be a December retreat. So this could take the place of the
What
retreat.
about Monday?
Well, you'd be done by Monday though.
I can't do it Monday.
I don't know if we can get it done that soon, can we?
No, I got it to Pam late, but there's a proposed contract for Chad, which I gave him a copy of. And there's the one for Jim. I don't really know with Nikki, what you're
Right, and I
thinking.
can talk to Nikki and get that to you, and you can do the contract, and then these guys can approve it. If anybody wants, Ross and I were gonna we were on a committee to do that, if you want to look at it, and I look at it, and then, so we'll email it to you when we get them done.
So both Chad and Jim's contract should be on
It's on
Spark.
Spark,
So
yeah.
you guys can review that,
Okay.
and then you can meet with Nikki.
Yeah, and then we can get that one done. So they're all, otherwise they'll all be done by easily by next week.
You want to meet here at the chambers?
At Chambers, if we could, yeah.
Okay.
And Ross, if you can't make it, that's not a huge deal.
Wednesday at 5.
So did we approve Jim as the street superintendent?
That's
You
in your
appointed
new-
him.
That's in the next meeting.
It is?
After you adjourn, sign, you die, it's on the.
Oh,
Yeah.
New
Yours-
business.
It's
You've
under
got
new
the
business.
agenda from yesterday. It's been updated,
oh,
like by 5 o'clock last night.
oh.
It was updated.
I was out refereeing, so I didn't even look at it. Okay, 18, resolution to approve contract with Black Hills Energy.
This is one that you guys had tabled from last month.
Yeah, and I think we've looked at it and we've figured out that this is just something we need to do, right, Jim?
Correct, yeah. It's basically for the curtailment of gas, if they call it, for our generation plant. 3030.
We've got a representative of Black Hills Energy here tonight.
Yeah. That meter hasn't moved since we put it in.
It hasn't.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
So can we approve this? We need a motion. Oh, is it a resolution?
Yeah, introduce the resolution.
Oh, we got to introduce the resolution, number 2021.
Are we introducing and moving to pass, or just introducing?
It's, yeah, you would introduce and move for passage.
Resolution to pass, resolution 20-2021.
Second.
Thank you. Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Scott? Read it?
You've already voted on it, so.
Done. And then, what about the passage of the resolution? We got that done?
That's what you just did.
Okay. And then consent and waiver Northeast Public Power District.
That's another resolution.
That's a different one.
And that's right, 20, 22, or whatever.
21, 21.
Resolution
21,
Okay.
2021.
2020,
I've got it, yeah, I've got resolution 21, 2021.
21.
So we have to just read it or just introduce it?
Introduce and move for passage.
I've got to have a resolution 21, 2021 for introduce and move to pass.
Introduce resolution 21, 2021, and move to pass.
Second.
A resolution of the mayor and city council authorizing the mayor to sign a consent and waiver of hearing for a proposal by Northeast Nebraska Public Power District to construct a power generator and related facilities on the north side of the city of Osmond, Pierce County, Nebraska, and to establish an effective date.
Add a motion.
And Ross? Ed?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Scott? Larry? Got it. Just sign it?
Well, you just get.
I just do it to you. Now we have to have a motion to adjourn, sign die.
No, you have the wrong.
Yeah, you have the wrong one.
Well, I've always got the wrong one. It's the one. That's all I got left. You added to it? Oh my gosh.
So we're on 9.
Oh, passage of resolution 22, 2021, authorized mayor to sign purchase agreement with CVA for the old bin site.
It's also not updated on the Spark, so if you guys are confused on where we're at, I see that it didn't,
Okay.
Take it out.
it didn't take the changes.
Oh, it did take it? Okay.
I got it on.
So,
So we can still do it or not?
yes, but we're gonna have to get an appraisal and have a public hearing, but you can approve the purchase agreement, the execution of the purchase agreement, so we've got a deal contingent upon those being met.
If that's a purchase from sales tax.
Yes, this is for the city to pay the entire $150,000.
And if the CRA, when the CRA met, we talked about it, we are willing as a CRA to do what is necessary. So if it would be less hassle for the CRA to purchase it, they would do that. So it depends, I think, on whether you want the city holding that, property, or whether you would pass that on to the CRA.
My own personal opinion, I'd rather have the CRA have it.
What's the benefit of each?
CRA would probably get it sold and developed faster than we will.
Yeah, don't have to have the appraisal and hearings and all
Yeah.
that.
So I'll say.
The sales tax you do. It's quicker and cleaner.
We haven't been very transparent on this transaction, but
Megan?
it was a situation where we were trying to keep it quiet because it was purchase of property. When CBA built their new bin site, how many years ago? I don't know. It's been a while. But at that time, they had some of the higher up people in the company were at the fire hall, and they made the statement that in 12 months, all of their properties in Wakefield would be at the new site. Well, I was overly optimistic. I thought they would all be out of there within 12 months, and that it would be done at the cost of CBA. And that didn't happen. And we've been pursuing a grocery store. Whether it ever comes to fruition or not, we don't know. But Cubby's is, Larry's got a lot of experience in the grocery business, and he thought the only way a grocery store could possibly survive, he thinks it has to be on the highway, and it would have to be with gas pumps. And so what Cubby's at one time was interested in doing that, but they didn't have enough ground. So we're thinking that there's a possibility that Cubby's might build the grocery store there. So we had an opportunity to get the property, and the price was $150,000. And the bin sites the bins were going to be taken off the property. And our people that know something about farming and bins, and they thought that was a good deal. And Terry and Gerald and Sam and Megan kind of led the way on that. And so we had to make a decision to spend $150,000, and that's what this purchase agreement is for. And whether we ever have a grocery store there or whether there's something else there, I guess we thought it would be progress. And we kind of feel like for small towns, they're going to either stay where they're at or they're not going to stay where they're at. They're either going to go forward or they're going to decline. And so we made this decision. And this is the resolution.
So when it was brought to the council, it was kind of a proposal to share the cost maybe between the city and the CRA and any other entities that might contribute. But as we were looking into how that's actually going to work, we kind of thought having the city be an owner and CRA being a joint owner is probably not the best situation. So the discussion kind of turned to, well, we've got sales tax money that we have to spend. So that's the one option. The CRA evidently has the funds that they can do it on their own if the city chooses not. And the CRA does not have all the, you don't have to jump through all the hoops that the city has to sell the property or to acquire it. So it's a little easier process with the CRA, but it's, I mean, you've got two options here. The resolution and the purchase agreement is for the city to purchase it using sales tax funds. But if you don't want to do that, then we won't act on it. Yeah, you can take it. And then we'll pass it over to the CRA if they want to do it. Which they would said they do.
Is that the best thing to do you think? I mean, I'm just saying what I was off the top of my head, I didn't really.
You know, I guess to me, if it's cleaner and if the CRA has the funds, it makes sense to me.
I'd just like to make a comment. CRA.
Come on up here, John. I had council members and myself, we didn't hear good enough.
So I just like to elaborate a little. Val said, the CRA meeting, basically what the CRA said is we'd be willing to do it, but we have a lot of projects we'd like those funds for. So if sales tax would be willing to do it, we prefer it that route. But if it was a no-go on that, then the CRA would fund it. It's kind of the discussion that I kind of took away from there.
Oh, I see.
So just wanted to let you know that.
Currently, both funds have about $600,000 in them, so either way, it doesn't matter. I mean,
And the other thing the public could know is, we're paying half now, and once the bins are gone, they get the other half. So they don't get to take their money and run and leave us with a mess. There still will be a good amount of work to do below grade, and we realize that, and that's gonna be expensive. But that's, you have to take the first steps anyway.
So, do we still want to table it and maybe,
No, we need, I feel as CRA member and as a council member, we need to decide tonight how we wanna move forward and move.
but we got discussion about the CRA would like to see it done, sales tax and,
That, but we also said, we would like that, but if the council said, no, not sales tax, even though those funds that are in sales tax need to be used up fairly soon, you know, so we're gonna have to approve use of those funds as a council at some point here, or do we lose them? They go back to the state? How does that work? I mean, it would be silly to give them a couple $100,000, but
And what does that have to be?
they're,
We don't lose the funds.
No,
But the
no.
auditor doesn't like seeing $600,000 of sales tax sitting in the pot not being used when you have approved the sales tax.
so it doesn't have to be spent.
It just needs to be, yeah, you need to find the projects. to spend.
Obligated.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too obligated to our auditor though.
So what kind of, projects does sales tax have coming up, or how do they feel for you?
They got a lot of projects coming up.
Yeah, we got 9th Street, and we got the street, you got the water, you got sewer,
Water treatment plant.
water treatment plant, so there's plenty of things to obligate them for.
Restroom for the senior center.
Could be, yeah, they pledged some money to the pool, and do a few other projects.
Backstop.
Paving the parking lot.
Yeah,
That parking lot, I think if the costs are, where you're gonna get a good value out of it. Right now, paving costs are pretty high.
So sales tax has not been asked about this project? No?
Not directly.
They meet next week, don't they?
No, they don't meet.
no, they
till
meet in January,
Okay.
just
They,
before.
unless you have a special meeting.
and we have committed ourselves to CVA. We need to honor that commitment and take action.
Did I see something somewhere that if sales tax owns the property and they go to sell the lot, that we have to open that up to the public for sale?
No.
Or you wouldn't have to do that with the CRA?
No,
Okay.
I think the statutes have changed with regard to the sale of real estate for the city. You can enter into an agreement with the developer to buy the property, but you have to advertise that you're going to do it, and the terms of the thing, the terms of the agreement, and then there's a 30-day remonstrance period where the public can come in, or a certain percentage of the public can come in and object and stop the sale. Okay, that's if the city owns it. If the CRA owns it, there's no remonstrance on sale of real estate.
And that's a change because you used to
Have to
open it up.
And the CRA has some commitments as well, like the downtown facade renovations. Those funds are coming out of our budget. What else? What's the other big one?
9th Street is some money.
9th Street, yeah.
What's the next street, what project is that?
The
This one right
paving,
here.
the paving
For
for
the
the,
paving.
By the Perry.
Apartments.
I thought we were doing that with the paving district.
We
They
still have
each
to pay
pledge
some
money towards it.
yeah.
Oh, you mean for the, you're talking about the sewer, the,
No, but you pay for it and then it's.
You still have to pay
assessed
for the
back.
project, and then you can assess it.
then it will come back.
Yeah,
It'll
Yep.
come back to the city.
unless you want to bond it.
Good bond.
We have a lot of downtown
Okay.
projects, lots and lots of downtown. And then, you know, people will want to continue, the CRA to continue buying up dilapidated properties and cleaning those up, so, you know.
I guess I don't understand why you think we need to do it tonight, if the bids aren't even down yet.
They have started.
I saw them, they're stopped.
I think they just want some direction. If you don't want to do it, just say you don't want to do it and then.
Well, we want to do it, but is it better if, isn't it better if the CRA does it now?
that depends on who the council want. Then we don't want people saying, well, the council doesn't get to make decisions. If the CRA has it, the CRA can ask to have certain kinds of property, can ask the property to be built a certain way, like we did with Mr. Perry, say, well, no, we want it to look a little more like this or this on his project. There are some restrictions that the CRA is able to put on that property that sales tax isn't, or the city isn't. Can't, yeah.
So isn't it better to go that way?
That's fine, that's fine. If that's what the council wants to do, that's what we'll do.
John?
How about a food for thought here? I don't wanna use this, sales tax money without the committee at least knowing about it. And we're having a special meeting next week. Can we get some guidance from the sales tax by next week? If they would approve it.
Yeah,
Call a meeting.
Call a meeting.
Leslie DB, John Corzine, Gary Solomon, Janelle Eden, and Cheryl Green are on the committee. We can even just contact them, but I mean,
If you want to go ahead and consider the sales tax to buy this and own it, the city own it, that makes sense. If you want the CRA to buy it, then there's no need to contact sales tax, because they won't be involved in it at all.
I guess what I'm hearing is that it's cleaner and easier probably if the CRA.
Mike, come up here and tell us what you think.
But
Everybody else is sitting in their chair.
Yeah, I think the CRA thought that maybe the city would want the property because then they could use it as a bargaining tool to possibly get the grocery store to
Working with
actually
Cubbies,
locate
you guys
there.
got control, you can work with Cubbies.
And that there can be a direct connection between the
And
city
if they need a
and
truck
Cubbies.
parking, you guys can make
If
a
you
deal
don't
with
want to
that.
build it, yeah. It's not a,
Either way is really fine, we just,
Yeah.
that's kind of the discussion. It's not sales tax, we want to do it.
Thank you, guys. Okay. So Val, you don't want to table it, but I don't really know what you guys want.
If we take it to, I mean, I agree, I think the sales tax committee should probably know about it before.
So can we wait till next meeting or next week? Or?
Next week, I'd like to table it till next week and put it on the agenda.
Get it figured out by next week for sure, because it's gotta get figured out, because we've gotta start paying.
It's almost 6 of one, half dozen of the other, kind of that kind of a deal, is it?
Yeah, so whatever the council wants to do.
I think sales tax should know
I mean,
about
it sounds like there's really no wrong answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's marginally different.
So can we wait till the special meeting or the January meeting?
I don't think we should wait till the January meeting.
Special meeting.
Special.
We gotta wait.
Yeah.
I can contact Jim unless you want to contact your committee.
We're asking them to what?
Consider it.
Consider paying the whole thing?
Yes.
No, half of the whole thing.
No,
No, the whole thing.
The sales tax?
Well, this is what I'm trying to work
Yes.
out.
It should either be sales tax paying for the whole thing, so it's in their hands, in the city's name, or it should be CRA paying for it, so it's, the CRA owns it and will move forward. If you do the sales tax in the city, it's gonna require more time, because you have to have a hearing, somewhere in the process. It'll be a little longer,
And a few more costs.
yeah.
You'll have two
The
owners
assessor.
instead of one owner.
I guess the biggest question to me, most of the loopholes we could probably handle or deal with, which body would like to conserve their funds the most? Who has the biggest plans moving forward?
Well, the CRA has more experience in trying to attract. We've got, I don't know, I just think they've got more expertise in the.
Sales tax just gonna sit.
If that's what it feels like. I mean, we haven't seen any action from the sales tax since the COVID money.
Right.
I mean, in the Shopkeep property, that's been the only movement on that money.
The sales tax don't want to do it, but if they said no.
If they say no, CRA will do it.
Okay, then
That's
we're
what they
gonna
said.
table it and be good discussion at the coffee shops for this week.
And probably the week after.
After we decide,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we got through that one. 20, passage of ordinance 12, 2021 to redistrict city wards. I'd like to have a motion, you all looked at it, it's almost very easy to remember.
This is an ordinance, so you're gonna have to introduce and then move to waive.
It's not updated on ours, that's.
We can get through this one, then we're gonna get closer to the end of the meeting.
City administrator report, if you can see it.
When we get through these next 6 items, and there is lunch back there, we're gonna take a break, and everybody's welcome. I don't know if we have enough water and coffee and stuff, but there are some things back there. You gotta have some of them, because otherwise I gotta haul them home, so. And Nikki brought some of the stuff, and Chanel got some of the stuff, and I don't know if Megan got involved in it or what. So that's gonna speed us up now, I'm hoping.
Can you tell us what the
We gotta-
redistricting is?
Pardon me?
Can you tell us what the redistricting is?
It's the voting precincts in Wakefield, Ward 1 and Ward 2. It's almost even.
It's in the city administrator.
I'm not in charge of that.
Oh.
Yes, Nikki's our.
I got
Maybe it's in the city administrator report.
That's the new word.
Well, because you guys have, well, here's what happens, it's on the custom agenda. So it's not gonna look the same on the side, because it's a custom agenda. Because sometimes you guys add something. So that's why I wanna look at your screen.
Where's the, we don't have it.
Right, no, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
This is the
It's
lagoons.
a custom agenda, so
And
it's
this is
a
Highway
different
35.
location, so I can see
So
what
this
you
is
guys
the
look like.
This is
And
the line,
mine
this
is the one that controls everything. So what you get, mine has it, yours doesn't.
So right
I
now
can
it
see
just
what
goes
yours
straight
looks
across
like
the
in order to fix
It's a
it.
little bit north, it's up here.
Because that's why we need to get that sparks on this.
No, that's
So all they're doing is
because
taking
that I still had it in development. I didn't know that they had to have it out of development to send it. It was sent, you just didn't have anything with it.
7th Street from the highway.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's industrial track right there.
Under this,
Thank you.
it essentially doesn't change except for him. That's
would you and Russ, you and Larry be the same one?
all you can change.
We don't really want that, do we? Huh?
This is brown ground. Still flow. Doesn't matter to me.
In Scottsville.
But Ross, my understanding, Ross is still in. We can get this term.
You know, because as soon as you got moved in and then work, they just took you out of there. And that's kind of, yeah, that's a good point. Hey, Lee, what would happen with Ross then? Ross and Larry, the same, we got 3 guys with the same ward.
They serve out their term and continue to represent the same district they always have. But then when he was not eligible, then he and Larry would have to vie for the same seat when the election.
So Ross would have the term, so. Even when there's.
Larry runs, he'll be worth 2.
The person who's districted out serves out their term. That's the end. Then you have the election for the new seats.
So I'll be done. Easy away.
Why don't you go get refreshments now, that way we can just,
You don't have to worry about.
we're on a short break.
Kicked out.
Oh, we don't get kicked out.
You don't have to worry about getting kicked out.
It's just when his term is up, if you want to serve, you don't. I do. Nobody has to file.
I would have to go again.
Right, it's just,
That's interesting. It only took like 5 people.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. But I guess you guys were talking about
Yeah.
it on north side of town.
Well, we were anticipating to see this lining down here at least.
But yeah, they're not gonna, I mean.
Well, maybe for a job, you know, it's like, yeah. You know, but it doesn't affect them now until after this next election. When that comes up, then you'll have to decide.
Yes. So, just so you know, I mean, if.
Ross in the same word.
Well, okay, then that's a different story then.
But Ross will still stand for 2 more years.
Yeah, you get 2 in each ward, but Scott's, are you also that? No, you're in.
Yeah, and I are gone.
So what's
Us three will be in Ward 1.
All 3 you would be in Ward 1. That's not a good thing.
That's okay. 'Cause I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Neither do I.
Is that contract what you want to draft?
I have to look at it all. Yeah, I kind of set it down.
You're gonna be here Friday also?
No.
Tomorrow? Maybe I should stop up in the morning and visit with you a little bit.
Yes. I'll go to Paul's.
You stay in our basement anytime you want.
Paul will keep me up all night long, Austin.
I get stories to tell. I got stories to tell about his brother. Remember we ran that Bobcat down at the state tournament? We put it in the parking lot?
I know.
You remember that, don't you? Were you playing that or that BJ was?
It's gonna be a long time.
That kid from Gordon, Rushville was, he stole it first pitch every time he was, they both played football at Wayne State as wide receivers. Then he played town team baseball here.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, Santos, Odell.
Yeah, Odell.
Yeah. But we beat them. They were the state champions, and we had the Bad News Bears. We took our 7 best players, moved them up to the Legions.
Is that in Mitchell or whatever?
Mitchell, yeah. But we threw the ball up in the air, and we call it Bobcat because Beaver ran against us. And the guy steals second. Well, the catcher just throws a pop up to the shortstop, and the shortstop, I got it. And the second baseman screaming, doubling up at second base. And Santos, he touched second, and then he headed back to first. And Mike Richmond, he was laughing so hard, I didn't think he was going to catch the ball over there.
That's what I said. Looks at everything the way.
We put it in the parking lot. That's the first time we'd ever run it. I mean, those guys had never seen it before. Our team. That shows you though how invaluable practice or no value practice is. I'll never forget that.
Get some cookies.
Never stops.
You had to be there. That's a team that we had to, Rob had to drive the greenhouse man into the game because none of the parents went because none of them killed in the district every game. I told you now the first half, we'll be home early because it's going to be 10 runs. We won like 19 to 18. The second half, we'll be home early tonight for sure because it's going to be 10 runs. We won that like 12 to 11. And then we had to play Laurel, and Laurel they had played as tough as all of our players are. And that's why I think I'll be home early tonight. And when we registered, Dwayne Tappy was up in the nearly noon now at the old furniture store. There was his desk with all kinds of piles of stuff.
Yeah, they were, that's,
And,
yeah,
we
that's
moved the
why I
7 kids
said,
up.
yeah.
Need to make sure Paul.
I said, well, we're still gonna have to get.
Well, he came in last night
Quiet turn, by the way.
and got, well, or yesterday morning, see, and then changed it.
If you don't register,
And I'm not blaming
it
it on her, it's just,
Takes the army, just throws everything, goes down the steps.
if you just open up.
That's why I had to register.
You wouldn't have this issue.
That was one of my favorite teams, man, out there. That would have been 1994. Yeah, Justin, that one was on the team.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
It's me.
DJ was on the team.
Because I can feel it.
Justin wasn't.
Yes.
Sean Hammer. Those two Christian. Mike White, 3 Michaels. Michael was the third baseman.
No pool?
Not doing too good. Monty really, I think, I was talking to Jerry today, and he says he thinks, he said his mom had anxiety, what they call it, anxiety, Alzheimer's. So Monty, if he, like in the locker room, he's going to go to the restroom, he said, you gotta go along with this. And then, can you get me this, can you get me, and that's not like Monty at all. And he wasn't even a referee last night, he told me he thought he wasn't going to go at the last game. And then he told me that when we got up there, he said, now if I have to sit down, I'll just go to the player's bench here and sit, that's probably it. And he never did, but just stuff like that, and he can't remember where, I mean, he said, where did I put that down? And he asked me 10 times where his compensation was. Then he'd tell me where his water was, he put it over by the squares table, I think he told me 20 times, that's my water over there. I mean, it's not, but it is kind of, because that's not mine. So I don't know how long he's. Perfect. And then he went to get him, Notre Dame game, he went and go to the. He was right in the. He wanted to go to the last quarter and a half, I was up over the part of the girls' game. I said, Monty, this is good win. And after the game, boys play, he's gonna die. The boys are good. I made a win for another 12 minutes.
Maybe one player from the team.
I think they're gonna be real solid.
Pam, you better get something. Did you get something?
I did. I did.
All right, let's play a tougher competition.
So should we, we're gonna let that one go. I don't know. So this is 3 readings, we can introduce it, right?
Well, you gotta do it before the end of the year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got it on my calendar, you have to.
Who came up with this, Neil Bloom and the boys? What? Oh, it wasn't, the supervisors just approved it, huh?
No,
I just kind of.
The county supervisors have approved it.
not this.
So what if we don't approve it?
When you gonna start working on that?
Well, I just see, you got 3,000 here tonight, I just need to see them. I mean, they might all 3 want to serve some more.
Can you tell you he doesn't do physical labor anymore?
Notice that, I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, hey, there's 3 good council members, why would you put them all in one ward?
There's a lot of good ones out there.
Are there?
But they don't know that when they're doing the districting, you know, they don't know that. They, I mean, all they did was add 5 people.
Yep.
They added you guys,
What are your
us,
options? Just leave it how it
and
is.
Calvin.
That's
all-
it?
That's it, that's all that was added,
Yeah, 5 people.
5 people.
So they're exactly even.
Uh-huh.
Hard to believe, isn't
Even though Wake County, I think, don't they have more vote, they have more people vote than Dixon County, usually?
it? Is that right?
Makes
I
sense.
guess that's the point.
And what did we pay them to do this?
That's what we said when we got it. What makes it equal.
It's perfect.
761 is 761 or something.
What about the 30-unit apartment house?
Then that'd
That'll
be
be
in,
next
that'll be
census.
another
Census in
census.
10 years.
What,
2030 census.
2030, yeah.
We got, not to worry about that.
So when you're in your 4th term as mayor,
I'm in my last year right now. This is it.
So he says.
No, you gotta refile it, I will not, I've done my damage.
Okay.
This is gonna be a stickler, but we better just pass it. Introduce and move to pass ordinance,
Introduce and move to waive the 3 readings.
introduce and move to waive the 3 readings for ordinance 12, 2021 to redistrict city wards. Anybody wanna do that?
Oh, no.
Second.
So Val, let's get the competition out of her ward. Ross?
aye.
Aye.
Scott, Larry?
Aye.
Okay.
You need a motion for final passage.
Need a motion for final passage, and I'm supposed to have to read this.
Make motion for final passage of 12-2021.
Second?
Okay, read it. You want it read? An ordinance of the city of Wakefield, Nebraska to amend the election wards of the city to provide for the repeal of ordinances and a conflict herewith, and to prescribe the time which this ordinance shall be in full force and effect. Oh, be it ordained by the mayor and the council of the city of Wakefield, Nebraska. The motion and a second, and
Scott and me.
Mm-hmm, yep, Scott, Val.
we already got it?
Yeah, we're way ahead of you.
Val. Yeah, it's
Aye.
not hard to do. Scott. Larry.
Aye.
And Ross. Okay, next was an exciting one because Norm's wants to put an expansion on his building at Oak Street Market. And we've got, everything is there, and I believe everything's okay, isn't it? Jim?
Not honestly, he came in late this afternoon with the dimensions on this, and I guess since we're doing, another meeting on Wednesday, give us time to make sure that this is right. We didn't get another look at it, to be honest, so,
Right.
you know, Teresa or Nikki and I need to make sure this is gonna happen. The thing, what probably needs to happen is a request from Norm to abandon that alley and give him, there's a 16-foot alley there. When you ask for abandonment, you can get 8 feet, share it with the next owner. He asked for that abandonment, and, where he at? Yeah. So he's got 18 feet here, I believe. And if he abandons, he's gonna pick up 6 or 8. So it will give him the rear setback requirement is 20 foot. So, think we need to make that happen.
But doesn't he want to keep his drive-through though?
He will. That won't change, Paul.
Oh, it won't,
The
okay.
drive-through will come through here.
Okay.
It'll widen it.
Okay,
You know, they'll give him that 8 foot here. He'll probably have to move that retaining wall a couple feet, but he's gonna pick up 8 feet. And then we have plenty of setback and plenty of maneuvering area in there too, so.
you got time to get that done in a week?
Well, I think we were discussing, you think we can figure this out by next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So table 11,
Please.
mayor's public comment period. Anybody want to talk? No. Yes, Chad.
Okay. So, as everybody knows here by now, the employment implementation has started, and there's some things that have basically come to my attention, and they're minor things, but they're improvements with landscapes and with beautification of the highway corridor and downtown and things like that. And they're just, it's 2 very small things that I'm just gonna talk about tonight, but I would request a budget review of anything in the dealings with the planners in downtown. There's a total of 18 total, 17 on Main Street, 1 at Norm's. Currently, I don't know the expectation level of what the planners are. And I obviously appreciate everything that's being done with them currently. I'm asking that if, for future reference, that we could source one of our local business owners to provide faux plantings and annual color and ornaments for seasonal direction. Basically, Thanksgiving through New Year's for one seasonal change, and the other seasonal change would be annual plants, as in flowers, things like that. My understanding right now, the city is currently doing trash, and there is some watering going on with summer and or part-time employment, so that can be facilitated. I've spoken with a business owner here in town and have gotten an upfront cost for all 18 planters for the material that we would need that we'd be able to reuse on a yearly basis. So we purchase it up front, the expenses up front, post those times of those plantings or those doings. All we would be out would be real foliage, evergreens and things like that if we were to go that route. We can go completely artificial, but we can make a pretty decent statement in our community and for the downtown corridor, given what's gonna be happening in the future for the improvement downtown. So, I don't know this process for me. I'm asking that this is reviewed, costs and estimates can be provided, from these vendors or from this vendor, for the future to be approved. And, the second one would be the highway corridor of the commercial district to, begin a tree planting and screening, process of what our setbacks are along that, Dollar General, CVA, the mechanic shop, and I believe McAfee Seeds and things like that. Estimated for me of what I took off there would be around 80 trees total, with a mix of evergreens and shade and ornamental trees. Everything being healthy in zone 8 for our area and our district, but I wanted to try to just attack these little things if possible for future conversations to get things moving forward on those.
Well, the Arboretum has grants available.
Okay.
And we have in the past been members of the Arboretum. I don't think we are right now. The tree board, I think, is a member of the Arboretum. But there's also, like Wisner got, they redid their old city auditorium. They got green space money for flowers. Actually, quite a bit of money for flowers in that project. And that grant would be available if somebody could contact the former administrator at Wisner. Was that Al? That Cat?
It's Al, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this a, Megan Weaver, is this a city office, diligence on our behalf to take care of that, or how do we attack that, I guess, is?
So we could, I think city office would take
Okay,
care of it.
so I mean, I can research that. I just want to know if I need to be on that, or if I, need to ask for help in delegating that task.
But the barrels have been I took pictures this year. Last year when the barrels, the watering stopped when the part-time help went back to work. We're no longer available, basically. And when the flowers should have been the prettiest, they were dead, basically, or dormant from lack of water. And it didn't give our Main Street a very good look. I've got picture proof of it. I've got the people that watered them were the volunteers, like at the helicopter, the museum by the memorial by the Legion Hall, that was watered all the way through. The wash house watered themselves all the way through. Norm watered his barrel all the way through. The flowers at the park were watered all the way through. And there's a couple that I'm leaving out. But then the other barrels were completely gone.
Okay.
And then they finally pulled those out and put in what they've got now. And Brian Millard made some of those, the Christmas trees and the flower box. Yeah. But the biggest response I got was that it was kind of lack of communication. But I thought since I brought it up the year previously, the same thing happened, that it would be something that would have been taken care of and it just slipped through the cracks.
And that's one of the things on the community club meeting agenda tomorrow, I think. That's a committee they have to take care of the flower barrels uptown. That's where it started, and then it got to be who does what, so.
Okay, so if anybody wants any information on costs associated with that, to do all 18 barrels, I have a cost breakout per barrel, and I have a cost breakout for what materials we'd be buying for long-term use and what materials would be a turnover in cost every fall. I didn't reach out to anybody on the spring plantings because we're not there yet. So if anybody wants any costs on that, or what we have planned for it and some examples of that, I have that available for them to see. And to me, I just feel like bringing that beautification to downtown just helps all the businesses that are there, and what our appeal is to our community. So
It helps everybody in town because you get to see some beautiful planters.
So yeah, and then that obviously goes along with the highway corridor, and I actually have a program that I have implemented in sealing what trees are going to be and how we would facilitate that. I'd have to get together with Jim and some of the other city staff to find out what setbacks requirements are from the highway and what setbacks are from buildings that are gonna be potentially going in there in the future, if any, and where we can go with that. So there's a little bit more legwork there, but I just wanted to get it on the agenda or in some way, shape, or form.
You could take it a step further and go down First Street, because that's kind of been over the years that I've been on the council, the fact that we had the Lawrence's have a ready-mix plant there, and they put a better plant in about 10 years ago, Jim. But the problem had been that they really hadn't maintained their property. They got piles of debris. They didn't mow it on a regular basis, and they promised us that they would. And we probably got more debris there now than we had before the new plant was put in. But we wanted the new plant to go on the other side on this side of the highway, on the east side. And he argued that he couldn't get any ground over there. There wasn't ground available, and he had to get it in urgently. And so we succumbed to let him put it in the residential area, and it just needs to be a lot cleaner than it is. And but there's some things you can do along there too. We have those two planters that are just next to Michael's Foods there to the depot.
Those are cities or those are Michael Foods?
Those are the cities.
Okay. And there is no current water in those either, correct?
No, it's watered by hand.
Watered by hand, okay.
Yeah.
I would like to see something done from the highway up to the depot.
Yeah.
And yes, that's what I'm talking about, that First Street, all the way from the highway into the park.
Yeah, I think that would succumb to what the plan is or the future of the bid center.
Yeah.
Because-
Anything else, Chad?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Jim? No, Mike's not here, so Jim's here.
Did you get Mike's report?
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. The city,
No.
the council has asked for him to try to come to the meeting, is that right?
Yeah.
Al and Ross?
You talked about it, yeah.
Do you want him to come? Because I'm the one that said, are you gonna have a written report or are you coming to the meeting?
He's got
And
quite
then he
breakfast
always,
tonight.
yeah, and he always just does a
You know, and that's fine, but like I said, usually, you know, when Mike steps up, generally it's kind of a lot of discussion
Right.
just about things going on around town or whatever.
Mhm.
But, you know, Jim can obviously explain a lot of that.
Well, and again, I think if we put him to the front of the agenda, you know, and get him up there right away, I think he's okay with getting in and getting out as quick as possible, you know, without
We did
him sitting here for an hour and a half.
We did that
you
the
know.
last time, we put it right in front.
So,
But usually they have questions of something that they've seen that week that they wanted, that Mike can answer. So he needs to come to the meetings, is that right?
When he can.
Okay.
When he can, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have him here, he's a good comment, I like to talk to him.
we'll get him there. Sales tax for the month of November was $19,842.44. So we're still having a good monthly average, $22,675 a month coming in for sales tax. I'm sorry to report, I know you're disappointed, I don't have any legislative update or information. If I get some, I'll send it out, you know, okay. In your packet also was some minutes from the water treatment plant project, an update there, and that's a 90% of design is where we're at today. The anticipated progress for the rest of this month is to continue with that, continue final design, put together a bidding schedule at some point in time and coordinate with the funding. As we said at the meeting, Craig was optimistic about looking at this new funding project or funds that is available, but all the information isn't part to NDEQ yet. So they have, when they get it, we will get a heads up on that. Now the problem with that is waiting till January or February, and the more we wait, the longer we push our bid off for this project. So we can only go so far, I think. We get to the end of February, 1st of March, I think we're gonna have to make a decision. If we don't have any direction from the new funding source, I think we're gonna be stuck with existing funding, what we have.
But what we got is pretty good.
It is good. Could we get better? Possibly. So I just warn you about that.
Just gotta wait a couple months.
I would say at the most. Val, if you think any different. So, and again, what we don't want to do is wait around and then lose an opportunity to get a early bid in and then jeopardize our funding or something else. Because I'm pretty sure that the contractors will be anxious to get this project, but it'll be a pretty tight schedule theirs too. So another thing out there is our power provider is all changing here the first year. You remember back when we signed contracts with Big Rivers, we had a 3-year plan to walk away from NPPD. Well, we're at 10%, and that disappears on December 31st. And I think I sent out, if not, I will provide it for you, that currently we're around 10% from NPPD. We have some wind worth about 15, WAPA Energy, the power that comes down from South Dakota, and the water people up there is around 17%, and then Big River provides approximately 58, so we get a combination of 100%. The first of the year, we are going to see NPPD at 0. The wind will be still approximately 15. WAPA will stay at 17, and Big Rivers will come up to about 67, 68%. So that's new, and that's going to change. I mean, your lights aren't going to blink off and say this is going to happen, but there'll be a change in the billing. We won't see NPPDs. I bet we'll get a bill probably in January or February for the remainder, and then it'll be all consistent with those 3 entities at that particular time.
So the 15% is wind and the 17 is
WAPA.
okay, hydro. Is that hydropower or not?
Yes, yes. That's what comes from South Dakota and those.
And how's Big Rivers generated? What's there? Is it all?
They will be at about 67, 68%.
But where do they get their, what form of energy is that? Is it
That is,
hydro?
No.
Got a coal-fired power?
There's a coal plant and some mixed generation, so mostly coal. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Did you mention this?
That there is in front of you. Can I have that just a second? That is, the 69 kV is that transmission plan. I don't know if you've been north of town lately, but they're building poles from the substation
Wow, that'll be good.
into town. And that's what this is, a handout there that comes from Northeast, showing you the route and what's happening. Eventually, right there in front of where the guys are parking on the highway, on the east side across from Cubby's, there'll be a larger steel pole structure with a big switch on it, and we'll be able to take energy both directions. Right now, we're getting everything from the Emerson sub and through that way. When they have an outage, of course, we're out of power. When this gets energized, probably after the first of the year, we'll be able to switch gears really quickly and move power around. So it makes us a lot more, it's a lot more valuable to us, knowing that the outages, when they do occur, will be shorter in duration. So.
And when's it gonna be done, Jim, you think?
They tell me they can't get their steel poles till probably after the first of the year, so.
Spring?
Maybe, yeah. Everything is so up in the air about products anymore, you just hope, when I call to order something, the first thing I say, do you have that on hand? Rather than give me a price, because it varies so much. And some products that we get normally are 6 to 8 weeks out.
And we don't know when those wind turbines that will stir the lagoon are gonna be here. And
We did have a conversation, they did call us back, and we talked to them, and he's rushing that order to get that done and to get that completed. I know he had told us that we were gonna have them earlier, but
I called the fellow that we ordered them from, and he gave me the name of the guy that works at Nucor that assembles them. And he said he would call him and tell him that they put a farm, hog confinement or cattle confinement ahead of ours because that guy said he needed it right away. And I said, we need ours right away too. Because we want to pass that test in April, right? We got to pass it.
right, yeah, I think sooner we get them in, the better, quality water we're gonna get put out there, so they'll get them to us as soon as possible, so. Yep.
And for the next meetings in January, February, April, Nikki and Jim and Chad can collaborate, but you don't need to be here, but if you've got, you're more than welcome to give your report, Jim, because you're gonna be working for the city still. And Nick, you'll be more than welcome to get up and give a report. And Chad, you'll be more than welcome, so. If you want to attend another meeting, you may not want to come back until you have to.
I had a question, Jim. We had a Malloy invoice, maybe, something that Mike had.
That is a slide pump for the pool.
Okay.
Yeah, you got that? Can you put that up? You should have seen that in your packet or on Spark, either one, what? Yes. Yes. So what he was presenting is the slide pump wasn't in that bad.
To utility foreman report, right there.
Now on the other side.
Go up.
Wake up.
And you gotta slide your mouse over and zoom. And it's new update is hard.
Yes.
Way hard.
Move that
Tell 'em
finger
we're
over to the
complaining.
right. It's
It is,
not. No, you gotta scroll, click on it and go to your right.
There's
Now scroll up.
Now scroll up.
What?
There was an updated.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well, I need to be a lifelong nerd.
Updated one is now.
So I had
I like the old one.
literally like 2
Yeah.
weeks later,
They
they changed
Oh, there you
it.
go.
So we're still trying to figure it out.
All right, so what you have
This
here
is the- what they're talking about.
is two bids. One is $46.40 and a $300, so it's about $4,900 to fix and repair the existing slide pump, or $23,492 for a brand new one.
The slide pump's not that old though, is it?
Well, it's the same age as the other one, but it was actually in better condition for some unbelievable reason, but I wish that was close to being 15 years old.
If you repair it, what's the warranty on the repaired pump?
Probably a year.
And maybe this is something, if sales tax is gonna have a special meeting, they can make a call.
Sales tax had obligated
They have already obligated $50,000 towards the
whatever
pool
we
this
need
year.
to go.
Okay.
So they're
Because they
letting
want it right.
the crew decide what.
And we talked about this at the end of the season. Besides that, what do we need? And there was a couple of supply things they wanted and repair to the boiler, but nothing significant like that, so. if you're in favor of that, you know, that's just another item for sales tax to, you
Yes.
know, to do and say, hey, we're helping the community again, so.
Makes sense.
If you're interested in doing that, we have our scheduled meeting for sales tax is what, just before the January meeting, so.
Unless they have special.
That's a lot of difference, so I think I would take a chance on the old one, and then with that one,
Yeah,
that's about, you can get a new one, that would
they
be.
got $5,000 versus 24, so.
And let me ask you this too, Jim, with the supply chain issues, do you see pumps decreasing in value in the next 2 or 3 years as things catch up?
No, you know, it's hard to say. Again, we ran into that other one because there was a special needs, it was a special design pump. And this really would be too. Even if you wanted to buy it today, I guarantee it's probably not built. But, you know, I kind of feel like Paul's like, hey, for $5,000, let's rebuild the thing and.
It'd be different if it was the pool versus a slide, you know, I mean, we gotta buy a slide.
Yeah, at times the slide pump is off versus other times, so if you want, we can give direction to the sales tax, say, hey, we wanna do a rebuild.
They don't care either way, you guys decide. They've already allotted the money and know that hopefully we can.
I think we can, maybe think about it, well, you want to decide tonight, I think we should get my thoughts
You
on
wanna
it.
wait till Wednesday and think about it?
This Wednesday meeting's getting longer and longer.
No
Yeah,
kidding,
I'm
yeah.
getting a long agenda here.
How long, I mean, how long does a pump usually last? It's 15 years old.
Anywhere from a year to 20 years, 5 years probably, done with.
Well, again, both of them have been in there for roughly 15 years.
I guess my thought is it's 15 years old. If we have, if sales tax willing to do that, it's a good time to replace it when we have those funds.
I'm thinking about your softball field fence.
Are we talking about a repaired pump or a rebuilt pump?
Or rebuild.
How long has that been in there? Since
So
'82, 40 years.
So it's not repairing our pump, it's a rebuilt pump.
It is our pump rebuilt with the impeller and bearings and gaskets and whatever it takes to clean it up and make it work right.
Do they know, I mean, do they have any general idea of how long one of those usually last?
Your chances of rebuild up last as long as the other one, probably, I mean, it could happen.
Can they,
Nobody knows.
is it pulled out already? Can they start it now, work on it when it's?
Yeah, I think if we called them tomorrow, we could get it rebuilt in here relatively quick. I mean, we don't need it till May, but
Get started now.
Yeah, I think we should get it ordered, but you might be looking at significant wage increases to get lifeguards next year. There's gonna be a lot of things that could come up because,
If it was my money, I would probably go with the rebuilt pump. And if it craps out in 3 years, you got 3 years out of it.
if it's my money, I'd go with the rebuild pump.
Then do rebuild.
Yep.
Okay. That's our
right.
suggestion.
That's a good way to look at it. I think I got drawn circles and stuff, I almost lost my place here. In fact, I did it. Here we go. We got some more to do here.
Water treatment. You do claims.
We got,
I can't find
council
this.
president.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
We're supposed to do claim before we,
adjourn and then we'll.
we're supposed to do claim before we adjourn, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I move we pay the claims.
And you've looked at all of them?
Yes, I have.
And I've looked at all of them.
Second.
They're in order, I think. Second, Ross, Larry, Scott, Val.
Aye.
We need a motion to adjourn, sine die.
And before we adjourn side night, I'd like to say that we want to have a celebration of Jim's work here. And he did not want to have one at this meeting. He's gonna be working through April, and he told me he will consider it later on. Is that right, Jim?
Yes.
So we might be able to do something in the spring, if he lets us. Or we'll surprise you. But that's why we didn't do anything this evening.
Or we'll take a week off during Christmas in honor of you.
Oh, shut down.
We're gonna head to Florida with you.
Good idea.
I don't have room.
Okay, we look for a motion to adjourn, signed aye.
Second.
Larry. Ross. Val.
Hi.
And Scott.
I need a roll call for a new meeting.
New meeting. Larry.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Val.
Hi.
Scott. Okay. Almost 8 o'clock. The first order of business is to approve the appointments of boards, committees, and authorities. And we've had some good luck at filling some positions and some not yet, not no's, but not yeses on some other committees. I went to some people that were willing to serve before, but for example, here's an example of that with Nick at the Witch Hut. He was willing to serve, but he said now because, so I was gonna ask him to be on the planning and zoning. They said he would do it, but he said he's so busy with trying to do his cabinets and then do his move of his building and build his new building. And I talked to Jim about being on planning and zoning, he's gonna think about it.
Our attorney recommends that as long as I'm working for the city.
Can't do that,
not-
okay.
Not
Okay.
get to do that.
So we haven't got people for planning and zoning. We've got one other person considering it. We got 2 people that are getting off. Gerald is getting off, and also, oh shoot.
Karen.
Yes. So we've got 2 openings there that we haven't got filled. I can go through the committees that we have. Also,
Here, if you want this.
also, we've got some committees that we would like to add. At the ADA meeting, we talked about adding Jennifer Goss to the American Disabilities Act compliance. And Adam was going to ask her, and I asked Adam yesterday, he hadn't had a chance to ask her yet. So she may be on that committee, but right now it's at 4. There's also some committees that I've been thinking about for a long time that I think we need to stagger the terms so we have some continuity. And those being, and there's another one that I don't even know what we're gonna do with it, the Business Incubator Board, because Pam, you're the one, you asked Zach if he would be on that committee, and he actually is in charge of it as city clerk, and now you're in charge of it. But what do we do with our incubator board? Do we still have that committee, or what's going on there, Jim?
Well, they're more than just a committee. They're the Wakefield, why can't I think of the name?
Patrick? WRDG?
The
WRDG.
But when I talked to the people about being on it again, they said, well, we don't have an actuary anymore. So what do you answer, what's my answer to them?
I think.
Well, they still have funds and
Yeah,
bylaws that don't happen to necessarily do with the
but they haven't met.
No, and they won't until they are thinking of a new project, I think is what.
I think their responsibility is the fact that they have funds and they have to reinvest those funds, or it's gotta go back to the donors. So
Okay.
that's, they'll have to make that decision.
These are a few of the things that I've run into, and my first year I was hasty to appoint boards, and then we had people that I appointed that didn't even show up at the meeting, and frustrating, to say the least. But I like to talk to the people before and make sure that they can serve. So we got some businesses, but for example, I think that the depot, we could very easily make those 3-year terms and stagger, and then we only have to approve 4 new members each year instead of approved all 12. And I didn't even talk to Jim Clark. I assume those people are all gonna be on again. Jim usually will let me know. The library, those people are all gonna be on again. Very good board. The park board, I would like to get a couple more members instead of 3, and I would like to set in the ordinance when they meet. I think that's something that, you see that with planning and zoning where they do a really good job. I think if there aren't exact meeting dates throughout the year, like monthly or whatever you want to do, they are less apt to meet. The Board of Adjustments, I've been told that by the people that I asked to be on it again, they said, well, yeah, but we haven't met for 2 or 3 years. I said, well,
That's a good thing.
that's a good thing. Okay. And I asked them on the housing board, they said, we haven't met. And I said, well, they've never met for the last 2 or 3 years. And that's Steve Monroe, Mike Nixon, and Kim White. But we need the board there in case we have housing funds that are applied for. Is that right?
Which board is that?
The Wakefield Housing Rehab Board.
Yes, because we have loans that are still out there, or.
But they haven't met, right? They told me they haven't met. for
No
2
one's
years.
applied for a new project, so.
They've been tied up since the COVID, and then we've got.
We haven't done a rehab
What, in
project.
Anderson? What, in Anderson houses, or,
Those aren't rehab.
oh, those are not
Those are,
rehab.
And Steve Monroe is gonna be building, they're building a house in Pender, so
We'll
he
be
won't,
moving.
he's gonna be moving, but, so I need a replacement there. I do need somebody there.
Probably. Yeah, there are funds available, but we haven't had anybody apply for rehab funds. We probably need to make that known again.
The cemetery board, the park board, I think those are 2 boards where we could change the ordinance and allow someone that doesn't live in the city limits to be on the board. Case in point, Sandy Ott, who probably takes more pride in the cemetery than many of us. I appointed him emeritus because he doesn't meet the law of living in the city limits, but yet he takes a great deal of pride in our cemetery. His son is buried there, his parents are buried there. And I just think that I would like to see us change those ordinances. I see Lee and Teresa are scratching their heads. Is that possible or not?
I mean, every 2 years we revisit this, and I can't remember on those whether it's a statutory requirement or it's just in our ordinance. But I think it's a statutory requirement that they have to live in the community for both of those boards.
Well, and with the park board, it's interesting because in the history of the park, when Philo Graves built the park, where the walnuts are, he planted the walnuts. And then in 1921, he gave it to the city, but he built it actually in the 1880s, after he had 3 kids that died of early childhood disease. But he gave what was presented to the city was, he gave it to the people, he didn't give it to the city, he gave it to the people of Wakefield and the surrounding area. So that, to me, means he gave it to the people that live in Wakefield or that might use the park from the road. And what I'm saying is, we always talk about how we really want to include the farming community. But yet all of our committees are exclusive of, a lot of them you have to live in Wakefield.
Except the depot, yep.
And except for the depot where we have
Barb and Jim Stout were when they were out of town, yeah.
yeah, and the board, what's the young board girl's name, Hannah or Jessica?
Hannah Moore.
And she's in the depot because she doesn't live in Wake. That's the only one she could really be, and she'd be tremendous on some other boards, I think. But just food for thought. Anyway,
But if it's a statute, can we change it?
Nope.
Okay. You can't change it.
We just need,
I'm not sure the park board is under that.
we just need to confirm whether it is or not.
yeah, and I know I've looked at all of those in the code book. So, anyway, I got, these are the ones that we can appoint the full board. The Community Redevelopment Authority. We're trying to get a cross-section of community. We've got some people that haven't been able to make meetings on a regular basis. One because of health concerns, but I did talk to John and Christian, and I've talked to people on the board, and they said John is pretty good on there. He doesn't live in town, but he's got banking experience. And his term is up, and I've decided to reappoint John. I wasn't going to reappoint John because there were other people that wanted the board. So that's the reappointment there. Tom Henderson has been suffering with some major health issues, hasn't been able to make it. That his term isn't up, and we're going to leave him on there until hopefully his health will improve. Barb is still on, Val is still on. Steve Grieve, has he been making meetings?
Yeah.
And I've called him a couple of times, and then Mike. And we've got one vacancy, and that's where Sam had to leave. And so that's the one, we've got 3 people that would be on there, but I've got to decide which one I'd like to put on there. So I would appoint that whole board, and then I've got one more appointment that I haven't decided yet. And I want to talk to those people before I decide. I've had suggestions of Gerald Moeller, suggestion of Bill Hyman, suggestion of, well, there's none that was suggested. Can't think who it is, but
Barrett,
who?
that's Barrett, Matt Barrett.
Oh, one of the school, yeah, the school superintendent, Matt Farrell, yeah. So those are 3 pretty good people that could be on the board. And I don't know, what's your thoughts on that?
I think Mr. Farrell's probably got a lot on his plate right now, but I understand having school involvement, obviously.
Bill would understand from the school perspective.
He's been a superintendent.
Yeah.
I've talked to Terry Baker about trying to get Gerald to agree to be on the planning and zoning. And so I have done that. So that's the redevelopment authority, or the ones that are listed there, and there's a circle around the vacancy. It's not filled yet. Citizen Advisory Committee, I don't know, couldn't get hold of Gary to see if he wants to be on it again or not. Gary is on the Wakefield, is it Progressive?
Yeah.
And Gary's on the cemetery board. And so this gives him 3 things that he's on, and we tried to limit it to 1, and we have a few people that are on 2. So I'm going to circle that one too, and I've got to make that decision. Project Review Committee remains the same. Does Mike Palmer, you still have, use Mike, Jim? So we're okay there? Yep. Okay. Business Incubator Board, they don't know if there's a committee or not, and I said, I don't know if there's a committee or not. And I haven't, if you say there's still gonna be a committee, I'll start asking people. And you are on the committee, so you can also help ask people for that one.
Okay,
But they're gonna tell you that they don't have a committee anymore, is what they're gonna be
so
telling
that'd
you.
be perfect. If there's a committee, we don't meet. You're just there in name.
The Wakefield Park Board is gonna have 5, one way or the other, but if we can have a rural person, I talked to Mark Lundahl, who has done a lot of work down there this summer, very interested in the park. And one other person, if we can get it, if we can change it back to 5. And I really fluctuated on that one because we had 12, which was too many. We got 3, which I don't know if that's enough. And then we had Teresa and Jill were going to be running the pool. And that put a lot of pressure on Teresa. She got Sarah Beebe to help her. But the person that would have been really effective there, we thought really wanted to do it, all of a sudden she gave me a letter of resignation because we decided to pay for the people that, to get lifeguards to pay for their testing. And I tried, so that's frustrating, very frustrating. Wakefield Planning Commission, Terry Baker would be on that again. No Gerald Schrader, no Karen Victor, so we've got 2 spots to fill there. And talk to Jim about it. I've got to talk to Gerald and see if he'll do it. Terry was going to talk to Gerald, but hasn't yet. Wakefield Board of Adjustments remains the same, and they have not met for 2 years. That's a good thing, like you say. Does that take care of everybody? Oh, the depot.
Tree board?
Oh, we got more. ADA compliance, if Jennifer says yes, we will have those people on there. Scott, Nancy, Gary, Adam, and Jennifer. There's no ordinance for that committee. It's a committee that's set up just so if we have a project like the apartment, that's when they're supposed to have some say. But I really think it should be a committee that we have that's a permanent committee. I think we should write an ordinance for them. And if we write an ordinance, that would be one that we could have members from the outside the community because Nancy lives outside. And then we set meeting dates for them in December and June. Civic Center Board, I don't know who we've got on the Civic Center Board right now. Mike Loop is off, didn't want to, is that right?
Mike, yeah, his term's up and he's not here yet.
Yeah, it says 2024 on here, but he said his term was up and he's done his public services.
I don't know if that's an error.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's an error. And Phyllis says no, is that right? And John Geiser's off. There's a little bit of a conflict here with Tom and Bernice because Bernice is, Tom is Bernice's boss. And Nikki said that Tom doesn't know if it's kind of a conflict for him to be on that board.
Yeah, I mean,
He's good on there, but maybe Bernice should be on it and Tom not on it.
possibly, or
One or the other.
One or the other. And Larry, do you want to remain on it? Okay. And the depot committee, Jim Clark always lets me know if there's a change, so I imagine that one stays the same. The Board of Health is automatically the mayor and automatically the council president, which is at this moment is Larry, right, or Ross? Larry. Sheriff, Tom, and Northeast Nebraska Public Health, and she said she would serve again. She's good on there. Larry, you can appoint all of those if you want to appoint them. And did you keep track of all of them?
Yes, I did.
Hey, thanks.
The only one I saw was Cemetery Board. I see Mike Benson's term is done.
He wants to be on again.
Okay. Okay.
He said he kind of likes that board.
No, I'm sure.
That's good. I just saw him today.
Okay.
Do I have to move to approve the appointments to boards, committees, and authorities? So move.
Second.
Ross.
Aye.
Val.
Aye.
Scott. Larry.
Aye.
All right. Now, I'd like to appoint Jim Litchfield as the street superintendent for 2022. Need a motion?
Motion to approve Jim as street superintendent. 2022.
Second.
What are you gonna pay him?
He told me,
We talked about.
he's got, that should be in his contract, but he's $45 or $50 an hour for like 6 hours.
It just needs to be in the minutes, doesn't it? Or do you want it?
What was it from Laurel?
I thought it was 60.
I thought it was 60 also.
Yeah.
Just asking.
50's fine, but 6 hours, Jim?
50's fine.
At 6 hours?
Typical, yeah.
Unless there's a big, that's a street caves in.
6 or 8, somewhere in that.
6 or 8. All right.
Per month, Jim?
No, that's
No,
for-
no, that,
the total.
that's.
Those are the
roughly for
hours.
the year, yeah.
So we just put down 6 hours?
Just put,
Is that enough?
6 hours at $50. He said it takes sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 5 or 6.
Okay.
So 6 hours, okay.
Okay. Now we have to elect a council president, that's up to you guys.
Did you vote on Jim?
Oh. we
There's
got
a
one.
motion, there's a motion and
Yep.
second.
Second.
Okay. Val.
Aye.
Scott. Larry.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Got it. Is that it for now? We'll appoint the, is there any more on there to do?
Council President.
Council President,
Okay.
I nominate Val Barb.
Second.
You got railroaded there.
We had this worked out.
Yeah,
you gotta move it around.
Yep. Spread the wealth, man.
Well, I'm gonna ask Val, will you do this, Val?
You're next.
What do I have to do?
Well, you're on the Board of Health,
Oh, okay.
and we met quite a few times the last couple of years,
Okay.
with Brad Bierman's property,
Right, right.
Brad himself, and then we've met on COVID stuff. Had to vote to go along with closing the eating establishments and the
Okay.
that kind of stuff, so, and then if you have some type of other infectious disease like polio, or if you have a tornado or a hurricane or whatever, you got things to do.
Okay.
And
Sign
you,
checks.
Back up, check signer.
and you run the meeting at the mayor's house.
Yep.
You can do it.
Yeah.
It's like a-
Truthfully, I think
We have
Don's
power.
shown tremendous leadership and put a lot of hard work in last
She
year.
works hard at it,
I think you do a good job.
Thanks, Val.
You gotta vote.
And I haven't missed a meeting in 13 years, so you probably won't have to do it unless I die.
That's,
Scott? Larry?
Aye.
Russ? Beth?
Aye.
All right.